psychics and mediums. The Bible talks about them, they have their own reality shows, and people of a certain IQ tend to swear by them, including important people in politics. With that being said, it's clear that psychics have had a very notable influence in world history. And without a certain figure that's going to be the subject of our video today, it would be an unchecked influence. The amazing Randi.
11 toes down, take a second to look around, pulling bodies at the ground, a place to ride around.
Randall James Hamilton Zwinge was born in Toronto, Canada on August 7th, 1928, to his mother Marie Alice and father George Randall Zwinge. See, Randi was actually born prematurely, barely making out of his birth alive, with an incredibly low weight even at the time of 2 pounds 3 ounces. His father being an executive at the Bell Telephone Company. While working with his younger brother and sister, James's parents noticed he seemed different from other kids, being the fact that he built a homemade pop-up toaster at the age of fucking 9. Yeah, he was definitely bright. Also, as a child his exact age I couldn't find, he blew a hole in the floor of the family breakfast room when he was conducting a chemistry experiment in the basement. He also began showing his skeptic, doubtful side at a young age, when at Sunday school he debated with the teachers about claims made in the Bible. Now, mind you, like, nowadays, if someone is a kid and they're questioning religion, they're building advanced machinery for their age, shit like that, they're known now for being what is called smart. But back in the 30s, that was known as crazy. His parents soon took him to Toronto General Hospital, where they discovered, what a shock, he wasn't crazy, he just had an incredibly high IQ of 168, leading to him being sent home. Another issue Randi and many highly gifted children have is playing hooky, most likely because he found school as not enough of a challenge for him. So one day, he did what he always did as a kid and skipped school, where one afternoon he found himself in Toronto's Royal Alexandria Theatre, where seeing Harry Blackstone Sr., a world-renowned illusionist, was performing. Seeing the amazing tricks Harry performed, Randi was not only mesmerized like many people seeing the act, but was instantly interested in how Harry performed the tricks. He pretty much decided then after, like, yeah, magic's gonna be my life, this is my thing now. Randi's also notably the one who said that it's often the kids that don't fit into the social picture that end up getting into magic. At the start of Randi's high school years, he insisted on homeschooling himself instead. His school and parents allowed this so long as he came to school to take exams, and to their amazement, he taught himself how to do advanced mathematics like calculus and trigonometry. It was also around this time that Randi got into a major bicycle accident that left him in a full-body cast for 13 months. Being the proficient non-time waster that he was, he spent a large amount of this time reading conjuring books in the hospital. Conjuring books basically being like the 1940s version of Magic for Dummies. Given the severity of his injury, the doctors honestly never thought that Randi would walk again, being absolutely astounded when he was able to stand up on his own 2 feet and walk around again. Being proficient in many magic techniques by the time Randi was 15, he later was informed of what he saw as the misuse of magic happening at some of the local churches. See, what ended up happening is he found this church where the pastor claimed he could read minds because of, like, his divine abilities, and Randi, being a proficient conjurer, as he liked to call it that he was, he instantly announced to the crowd, hey, he's tricking you. This is an illusion. I'll show you how to do it. See, from what I was able to gather, the pastor was taking sealed envelopes of people's thoughts, holding them, then saying what the contents said before opening them, making it seem like he could telepathically read the writer's thoughts. When in reality, what the pastor was really doing is what is known as the one-ahead trick, which is actually a very simple and common trick you can do with a little bit of practice. James obviously knew what the pastor was actually doing before opening them. After getting up in front of the church audience and shouting to the crowd how the trick was done, the pastor's wife called the police and Randi spent 4 hours in a jail. While in the pen, Randi vowed that someday he would fight back against the people he felt defiled his art, which of course he did. This is what inspired his career as a scientific skeptic, but that comes later. James hasn't even become amazing yet. You'll get the joke if you haven't already. After dropping out of high school at the age of 17, probably because there was a little too much shop class, not enough magic, Randi decided to join a traveling carnival. Mind you, this being a 1940s sideshow type of carnival, the kind of acts that they had were a bit less than up to date. For instance, as his stint in professional magic, he pretended to be a Persian character known as Prince Ibis, sporting a turban and beard. See, his gig was doing a mind-reading act, along with a supervised 10-in-1, which is carny for 10 attractions under one tent. After noticing that Randi was quite a bit more captivating than the world's tallest dwarf, world's shortest giant, and the 10-foot, 6-foot snake.
Last year, they had the world's tallest midget. He was as tall as you, Earl, remember?
That last one is a real story, not just a joke. Randi soon felt it was time for him to move on from the carnival and hit the Canada nightclub circuit, where he posed as the Great Randall. Not quite amazing, but we're getting there. He very quickly garnered the praise from the people who attended his shows, with a story that brought him into the big limelight being when a police officer jokingly smacked a pair of handcuffs on Randi, asking if he could escape. Being the escape artist that he was, here's a quote directly from him as to what he did. "I walked into the open door of a squad car and got out the other side with the cuffs off. Shocked and impressed, the police then dared him to escape out of a local jail cell. Of course, Randi did easily. The next day, a local newspaper carried a story headlined, 'The Amazing Randi Escapes from Quebec Prison.' Since then, he legally changed his name to James Randi, encouraging his hype and rep as an escape artist. Randi was known for escaping from tied ropes, straitjackets, as well as handcuffs, while he was in a water-submerged coffin. Being world-renowned at this point, Randi was invited onto a CBS TV show called It's Magic. In the shocking stunt, he was to perform it in front of national television, involved in being tied upside down in a straitjacket to a crane that would later lift him 110 feet above Broadway for him to escape from. And yep, Randi did that too. And without any shock of mine, because that is fucking nuts, got him on the front page of the Herald Tribune. Now this is the moment Randi became world-renowned, having him be featured 32 times on The Tonight Show alone. Now, how he managed to get on The Tonight Show that many times is, well, I'll let Randi explain. He would often walk into the Tonight Show writer's office an hour early while they were still desperate for ideas. He was quoted as saying, "I'd say, 'Would you like to freeze me in a block of ice and see me escape?' They'd say, 'Great,' and gag it up somehow, freezing me with a halibut on my chest and whatnot." So from the late 50s to the early 70s, this was Randi's thing. He was a very famous and successful magician who performed amazing stunts and tricks for the captivation of millions. But that's not why we're here, are we? No, you guys know why we're here. Let's get into the bullshitters. In 1964, Randi was on a radio panel where a psychologist, hearing Randi talk about all the con men who he couldn't stand, the psych basically told Randi to put his money where his mouth was and prove that he could expose these alleged frauds. Randi, being a complete gangster that he was, said, "Sure, I'll put a G on it." So he offered a challenge to anyone who claimed to have some kind of mystical power, claiming that if they could prove it they had some kind of special ability, they would get $1,000, which, mind you, in 1964 was well over 10 grand now. Of which 1,000 people have attempted this challenge for decades since it had started, and a grand total of 0 people have ever succeeded. Yeah, it's crazy how all the 1,000 people who could do things like allegedly move paper with their mind and levitate and talk to psychic warriors from Maya and all this other shit, it's baffling to me that none of them turned out to be legitimate. I wonder why. Mind you, during the time of the 60s, during the era of peace, love, and weed, man, a certain allure for the mystical started to boom at the time. You know, all the zodiac signs, Ouija, Wicca, the shit your girlfriend likes, you know, crystal people, that stuff. You know, and with that came a lot of people making money off of the people that buy into that horse shit. You know, and when I say money, I mean a truckload of money. And so, Randi had plenty of competition and plenty of people to expose as charlatans. In 1972, 2 scientists at the Stanford Research Institute announced that they were examining an Israeli psychic who could apparently cause objects to levitate, spoons to bend, and electron beams to change direction. Dude, we put a guy on the fucking moon by that point. Probably. Their subject, or charlatan in reality, quickly became a celebrity. Go figure, the magic spoon wizard guy became huge in the 70s. But Randi, seeing him perform, was, how we say, less than impressed. See, it was at this point that Randi felt it was time to act. Clearly never forgetting that vow he made when he was 15 about getting back at the charlatans who dared defile his magic, with several other scientists and journalists appalled by all the con men getting fame off the mushy brains. They then formed the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, also known as the CSICOP, or as I will refer to it, the PsyCop, which later included famous names like astronomer Carl Sagan, just to name a few. As the leader of PsyCop, it was Randi's job to get in front of producers, TV editors, and the like to prove that Geller was a sham, by easily duplicating the trick himself. And now it's time for the funniest part of this video, and probably the main reason that most of you guys clicked on, is the clips of Randi just outright dunking on these people that are trying to prove that they're fucking wizard men. And dude, the fact that it was performed in front of a live audience where you can see the people's faces as they react to the guy clearly, like, clenching up because he realizes he's being proven as a sham, it is some of the cringiest shit ever.
Johnny had been a magician himself and was skeptical. I was asked to help prevent any trickery.
This scares me. This scares you? Well, we just got some things together here. And
I told them to provide their own props and not to let Geller or his people anywhere near them.
Do you want to try that particular experiment first?
When I'll feel free.
When you Sure.
We'll start eliminating the ones that do not have the water.
All right, without touching them.
He is really suspicious, you know. I'm having a hard time with you.
Look, I don't mean to be, Yuri. I really don't.
Just keep looking.
You don't feel, what, strong tonight?
I don't feel strong. It's not all tonight. Right now I'm feeling being pressed, and then I can't...
Well, I'm not trying to press you. I really not.
No, you're only telling me, well, will you try that or that or that?
Well, I thought that was the idea of no, I'm not trying to put you down.
And with that, my friends, a star was born.
Becoming more well known as the guy who was dunking on the charlatans than an actual badass conjurer that he was, Randi was quickly constantly invited on more talk shows to call out these people. Now, mind you, this does not mean that Randi stopped being the amazing Randi. No, he was a workhorse. He still did his magician stuff. He appeared on just about every TV show he was allowed to be on, as well as doing some pretty wicked stuff, like during Alice Cooper's 1973 through 1974 Billion Dollar Babies tour, Randi performed on stage both as a mad dentist and as Cooper's executioner. He also built several of the stage props, including the guillotine. In a 1976 performance for the Canadian TV special World of Wizards, Randi escaped from a straitjacket while suspended upside down over Niagara Falls. So yeah, Randi was still being a badass even whenever he was showing his more intellectual side in the 70s and 80s. It should also be mentioned that as Randi's rep got more certified, the prize money for his award for whoever could beat his challenge also went up, in order to get more and more big names to do the challenge and get proven as the charlatans that they were. Most of the prize money being raised by James Randi's cult fan base. It was also raised by TV promoters who wanted magic train wrecks to appear on their shows, because cringy blunders on a TV show is about like a car crash as you're going on the highway. You can't help but look. You know, you may not like what you see, but you're looking. So they all wanted Randi on their show. Randi himself also donated by giving more prize money as well. Now mind you, Randi had some very successful supporters like the internet pioneer Rick Adams. Adams donated a grand sum of $1 million for the prize in 1996, which was the last donated amount to the iconic Randi prize, and mind you, $1 million in 1996 is over $2 million today. People know the Randi prize, but that's typically like the common name for it is Randi's $1 million prize. That's where it came from. So yeah, there were never any short supply of con men to participate in the challenge after the prize was raised again. Randi being the humanitarian he was, he had also taken in many orphans in the 70s and 80s, at one point taking in 7 foster children. Now that we have a good background on who Randi was and what he was doing and what he was famous for, now I'm just going to kind of go over a list of the most notable cases of people that he proved were bullshitters. In 1986, a televangelist named Peter Popoff claimed, and I quote, to be guided by the voice of God. Yeah, he was one of those people.
Look at that man go! Woo! Man! Oh, I'll tell you, Jesus made you dance like... Yeah! Yes! Yeah! Yeah!
Fascinating. Fucking fascinating.
We won't buy no tickets. Nah. I don't give a fuck what you think, I'ma do it. Nah. Yo, well, I got the juice, motherfucker.
Randi very quickly feeling the need to step in and poke some holes in Peter's holiness. With the help of several volunteers, a video camera, and a radio frequency scanner, Randi quickly discovered that Popoff's wife, Elizabeth, toured the audience before the service began and engaged in seemingly consensual chit-chat. Nothing strange about that. Until they quickly found in her oversized purse was a radio transmitter that carried the conversations backstage where Popoff transcribed them. When the evangelist later made his rounds on the stage, he had in his left ear a hidden miniature receiver that enabled Elizabeth, now backstage, to direct him to those members of the audience she had already pumped for information.
I suspected that Popoff's revelations were other than divine. The radio scanner we brought to the hall picked up a decidedly worldly source.
Hello, Petey. Can you hear me? If you can't, you're in trouble.
Popoff was being prompted by his wife through a wireless earpiece.
Homie got fucking busted. Also around 1981, a man by the name of James Heydrich went on an episode of That's My Line with James Randi. Now, Heydrich's alleged ability was that he had telekinetic powers of that he had allegedly learned from studying martial arts. So, you know, he was one of those, like, Count Dante. He killed them with a 1,000-finger death punch kind of guys. Dude, as soon as I said that, I felt like spit come out the tip of my tongue, and I had to suck it back in. Gross. See, what he would do is he would go on these talk shows and do these performances where he would allegedly move sheets of phone book paper with his mind. He would also spin pencils with his mind as well. And whenever Heydrich got on the episode of That's My Line in 81, he thought it was business as usual. He was gonna wear his stupid outfit and do his little kimosabi fucking paper trick. There's only one problem. There was another guest on that show. James Randi. See, Randi and his team easily figured out that Heydrich was using his baggy clothes combined with a good gust of air from him throwing an open palm to make the pencil move. He would also use a phone book specifically because of how thin the paper was, making it easier to move. Randi, being fully aware of this, put small pieces of styrofoam in front of the book. So, if Heydrich did his gust of wind trick, it would easily be proven as a sham because the styrofoam would blow too. And here's how it went.
This time.
How many pages?
Just one page, once.
Like that.
Okay. The styrofoam and the lights form electricity which pulls the page. Look.
Dude, Randi was a fucking G. I should also like to mention that Randi would step in to prove people's incredible abilities as well if they had turned out to be real. That, while not being supernatural, were still extraordinary nonetheless, like when in 1982 Randi verified the abilities of Arthur Litkin. Litkin, a Philadelphia doctor who was able to identify the classical music recorded on a vinyl LP solely by examining the grooves on the record. However, Litkin did not claim to have any paranormal ability, merely the knowledge of the way that the grooves form patterns on the particular recordings. The most common kind of swindler out of all the people that James investigated, and also typically the richest swindlers, I wonder what the correlation is there. It's the psychic mediums, also known as the I can talk to dead grandma people. Or, no. I mean, there's no correlation between the fact of these psychic, brilliant people were also the richest. None whatsoever. See, what these psychics typically do is what is known as cold and hot readings. Cold readings is to where they would look out into an audience of 100 people and be like, does anyone in the audience have a family member who has had or died from cancer? And it's like, who the fuck doesn't? Magic. Then there's what's known as hot reading, where you dig at specific information that you found on a person. For example, like the guy who claims he knows all this special stuff about celebrities, when in reality he just does a Google search before talking to them. And Randi investigated these mediums many times as well. And of all the mediums he tried to verify, he found a grand total of a number between -1 and 1 of how many of them turned out to be psychics. Guess the number. The way that Randi exposed these cold readers was pretty simple. He just gave them data explaining how easy it is to come up with the answers, making it seem as though they are psychic when in reality, they're just good at parlor tricks with a touch of predatory manipulation.
Yeah. She did a reading for you not too long ago, which I understand you think is a very good reading.
Yes, she did.
A few simple questions, if I may. How many names, did she give you during that period of half an hour?
Probably half a dozen.
About half a dozen. And did they all hit?
Not everyone.
Well, you were kind enough to give us a tape recording of that reading done by Maureen Flynn for you. And for your information, during your reading, Maureen Flynn tried these names, and they are on the tape of the reading that you're referring to.
Alan, Alfred, Alice, Ann, Bill, Charlie, Cullen, Connie, David, Derek, Eileen, Ellen, Flory, Frank, Fred, George, Jim, Joe, John, Karen, Catherine, Kevin, Lillian, Lisa, Liz, Lynn, Mark, Mary, May, Mike.
That's 37 names, and she also asked you if you could connect with any name beginning with an N or an L, and you could not do so. Now, in the ones that were accepted, and you did accept 9 of the 37 that were given, these were some of the categories: a son, a lodger, a brother, a nephew, an adopted nephew, a grandfather, a fellow worker, a cousin, and the neighbor's dog.
I think I just found, like, my new favorite historical figure. Randy, being the OG intellectual troll he was, thought it would be smart of him to make his own hoax that he would expose as such to the public, to prove that anyone could do these hocus-pocus scams if they knew what they were doing. So, in 1988, he built up publicity with Australia's 60 Minutes for a spirit channeler named Carlos, who was actually artist Jose Alvarez, as well as Randy's partner. Again, a spirit channel is one of those people who can be like, I can talk to the spirit of your dead grandma, you know, one of those people. Which is like the most fucked up and predatory kind of medium that you can be. Like, it's so disturbing. Funnily enough, a week after this performance, the crowd was shocked to see themselves being rused on national television, and the amazing Randy explaining how he had done these amazing stunts. It should also be mentioned that we look at Randy very fondly now, and there's been a good amount of TV specials he's been on exposing these people, where the crowd cheered on Randy and his efforts. But there was also a large amount of people, and not just con artists, but average everyday people that hated Randy, because he was exposing these people for who they actually are. And not what people wanted to believe that they were. That's what it's about. It's people that they knew that they were getting the wool pulled off their eyes, and they wanted the wool to stay on. They wanted to believe, you know.
You give us a lot of lip service about all this stuff that you're going to prove. You go against a lady like Doris Stokes, who never harmed anybody in her whole life, and you call her a charlatan and a fake.
You know a great deal about it.
Yes, I do. You said that she was a liar on the radio. You called her a liar.
No.
And that woman wouldn't lie to anybody. And I don't know whether she's right or wrong, but she wouldn't lie to anybody. And we're going for a commercial break, and you can pick off.
Hey kids, can you spell dumbass? But with this being said, he was still very highly regarded in the scientific and actual magician community. Like when a $273,000 MacArthur Foundation Fellowship Award was given to James Randi for his investigation of the claims of Yuri Geller and the TV faith healers. He was also given an honorary membership of the Israeli Society for Promoting the Art of Magic. Now, he was given a load of other awards and honorary memberships and stuff like that, but one of the ones I think it's particularly important to mention is he was made an honorary member of the Bay Surgical Foundation in 1984 for some of his work. He had gained this membership after giving a lecture on pseudoscience and other hocus pocus. Also, with this being said, given that like the majority of the people that Randi went after were from America, they did the most American thing they could do, which is try to sue the absolute shit out of Randi for exposing them for being completely filled with horse shit. Like when Yuri Geller sued Randi and Psychop for $15 million, he alleged defamation, false light, invasion of privacy, and interference with prospective advantage. Otherwise known as, Your Honor, what I do is bullshit. These people keep proving it is bullshit, and I am losing money because people are starting to figure out that it is bullshit. Give me my money. Mind you, this being said, it's not really like Yuri was even, like, hurting for money. He made bank all the way up until right fucking now. I'm talking millions of dollars, and that absolutely lit a fire under Randi's ass that never went away. It never went extinguished. You can go to Yuri's website right now and see just a truckload of the most ridiculous stuff. Ridiculous claims. No, I'm not going to leave a link to his website. I'm not supporting him in any fucking way. Given that Randi and Geller had been feuding for decades at this point, it had gotten so bad to where there was one point whenever Randi was asked what to be done with his ashes post-cremation, he jokingly responded with, and I quote, "My best friend is instructed to throw them in Yuri Geller's eyes." Yeah, I'm starting to see, like, how a guy that was that old was making props for, like, shock rock and shit. That's pretty fucking metal. Given that you can't sue somebody because they proved you're scamming people, the Geller case was thrown out in 1995, and Geller even had to pay $120,000 for filing a frivolous lawsuit. Also, mind you, not to mention did Randi lose a lot of respect, especially from people in the bullshitter community, he also lost a lot of his finances as a result of going after them, and this is the part that gets kind of sad. The legal cost for, like, the Geller case alone was almost the entire $273,000 that Randi got for the MacArthur Award alone. And there were many other lawsuits where he lost money too, besides that one. After moving to Florida in 1986, James met his future husband, Jose Alvarez, in a library in Fort Lauderdale. See, Alvarez was an artist who had fled to America to flee anti-gay persecution in Venezuela. See, and the thing with James Randi, as it's been reported, he had actually hoped to find a true psychic out there. You know, he wanted to maybe be proved unequivocally wrong and meet somebody who had true, like, supernatural metaphysical abilities, but unfortunately, since we live in the Milky Way galaxy and not the one that Yoda's in, he never found that guy. Probably because there isn't that guy. Now, if you thought Randi couldn't get any more badass, in 1987, Randi decided, you know what? I like snow, but I also like living in a free country. So he got full citizenship in America. The main reason for his permanent departure from the Moose Kingdom was an incident while he was on tour with Alice Cooper, during which the Royal Canadian Mounted Police searched the band's lockers during a performance, completely ransacking the room, but finding nothing illegal. Yeah, maybe I spoke too soon. That's like the definition of what American police tend to do. And given that Randi was a gay genius performer, he had a huge love for the literary, and he had written many, many books. The first book Randi wrote was in 1975, but later published in 1982, titled The Truth About Yuri Geller, of which he went into detail about Geller, his abilities, and how James Randi easily destroyed him. His second book, titled Flim Flam, Psychics, ESP, Unicorns, and Other Delusions, that he had published in 1980, is his most famous book, in which, you guessed it, it is about different forms of pseudoscience and hokey-pokey bullshit. Of course, he wrote like several other books on this topic, but I'm only going to continue naming like one of the more well-known ones, or we'd be here forever. This type of book being his typical literary mainstay, he wrote another one of his more famous books in 1987, the work known as Faith Healers, a book that, if you didn't guess by the title, was all about debunking bullshit artists using the holy name of Jesus King God in order to conduct supposed miracles. This being said, Randi being a true lover of all things conjuring, he also wrote a book titled Houdini, His Life and Art in 1976. The subject of the book obviously being about trains. No, it's obviously a biography about Houdini and his life. Also, another very important book Randi wrote was his 1990 book titled The Mask of Nostradamus, in which he had argued that the 16th century French psychic was actually just a master bullshitter who would make very vague predictions so that when these events allegedly happen, he is instantly right, when in reality he just spitballed a bunch of nonsense and eventually some of that stuff kind of came true. Because, of course, some of it did. He made like a metric shitload of nonsensical predictions, and, a blind fig... a blind pig occasionally sniffs up a truffle. See, what's cool about Randi is he had gone to such great lengths to the point of he would continue debunking these people in his 70s and 80s. Even though all he had really done is lose money for these noble endeavors, he would still do TED Talks, he would give lectures, write books, write essays, articles, the works,
If someone were to appear on this stage in front of him and actually claim to be an ancient prince of Denmark named Hamlet, you would be insulted. And rightly so. Why would a man assume that you would believe something bizarre like this? But there exists out there a very large population of people who will tell you that they have psychic, magical powers, that they can predict the future, that they can make contact with the deceased.
2010 also being an important year for Randi for him coming out of the closet. He also decided to marry his partner at the age of 81 in 2013, this being Debbie Pena. But with old age comes old age problems, like whenever he got diagnosed with colorectal cancer in 2009. Randi had a bunch of tumors in his intestines for which he had laparoscopic surgery. Then being the badass he was, he still managed to go to the amazing meeting 7, of which he announced his diagnosis and that he'd be starting chemo. Not being one of those like, woe is me, instead being the G he was, he took it right on the chin and he had this to say. And I quote, "One day I'm gonna die. That's all there is to it. Hey, it's too bad, but I've got to make room. I'm using a lot of oxygen and such. I think it's a good use of oxygen myself, but of course I'm a little prejudiced on the matter." But no, don't worry. He didn't die yet. He kept going. Luckily. Now, Randi was a champ who kept trucking for a while. Again, mentioning the importance of the year 2010 for Randi's life, he had done his final round of chemo in late 2009, then stating in April 2010 that he was a clean bill of health. Now, I know that James Randi didn't believe in God or anything like that, but I think God believed in him because of all the stuff Randi, all the crazy stunts he did, and not to mention beating chemo. I think God was watching a little closer watching him a little closer, like, nah, man, you got some more charlatans to expose. You got some more mediums of indoor or whatever the fuck to call out. With that being said, I think it's now a good time to mention some of Randi's lifestyle choices and why he managed to stay in good health for so long. He stated in a 1993 interview that he did not drink, smoke, do drugs, none of that. Homie was straight edge. With this being said, of course Randi was still human, and in 2017 had announced publicly that he had suffered from a minor stroke and wouldn't be able to attend PsyCon in Vegas that same month. Dude, when I'm 89, I don't even know if I'll be able to travel to my fucking toilet without a wheelchair. This guy traveled across the country to Vegas for essentially charity, and even though he was a multi-millionaire. At 89. That's impressive. Then finally, in one of the worst years of our Lord, 2020, the world lost someone amazing. James Randi died on October 20th of 2020, making it to the age of 92. His death being what the James Randi Foundation said was natural causes. The Center for Inquiry said that Randi was the public face of skeptical inquiry, bringing a sense of fun and mischievousness to a serious mission. Kevin Fraser said as part of the statement, despite his ferocity in challenging all forms of nonsense, in person he was a kind and gentle man. Of which I have little doubt. And there you have it, the story of that 1 in a billion guy who not only had the smarts, but the balls to see the evils of the world doing what evil does best, fooling people for personal gain and being like, you know what? I'm gonna stop them. Randi had the gumption to publicly disagree with the bullshit that was being fed to the masses, even though he knew he would be hated for it, which many did hate him for it, unfortunately. See, Randi always reminded me of those kind of guys like the guy who crossed his arms at the Hitler rally, or John Adams whenever he chose to represent the Redcoats, even though he was a patriot after the Boston Massacre, because it was just the right thing to do. To end here, I will leave off with my favorite quote by James Randi. Those who believe without reason cannot be convinced by reason. Fucking based. Well, guys, I'm glad I got done with another video. I'm going to be doing some stand-up in a couple days. Looking forward to that. You'll probably see some coverage of me doing stand-up by the time this video is out. If you could check out my both my YouTube channels, my main channel, which is, Bimby Music. This channel, subscribe, like, comment, all that. That would be dope. And please check out my band, Password Society. We're going to be hopefully coming out with our own music soon. Looking forward to that. We've already played at a place. We're going to be playing some more places soon. And yeah, it's been great. And I love how well the last video did and all the people commenting and contributing. And I want the same one with this video. I want you guys to go off on your own and look into the story of James Randi yourself and look for more interesting tidbits about it and leave cool stuff about him in the comments. I'd love to see it, and I'd love to have a conversation with y'all. But yeah, that's all I got, guys. Catch y'all later.